Hey everybody, Joe Konkoly in the shop. Today we're going to try to answer a question that many of my customers have asked me and the other repair guys here is, how do you get started in this business? And the last time I thought about that question, I realized that I have three gentlemen who all went to the same Luthiery school, the Galloup School of Lutherie and Repair, which is just up the road in Big Rapids, not Grand Rapids, but Big Rapids. And so let's talk to these guys about their experience at the Galloup School and how that relates to answering that question. How do you get started in this business? I have a lot of thoughts about what I look for in a job candidate too. So, and that could relate to that story. Just a shout out to Brian and Sam Guidry up at Galloup School. We have a very good personal and professional relationship, which is one of the reasons I got three of these guys working for me here. So let's introduce the fellas here. Why don't you guys all step in? Carlos Monserratte, Kyle Szarek, and Mich Hoenerhoff. We must move in closer. Sorry, we only got so much. So, I guess my one question that I had right off the bat, and maybe this will get us rolling on talking about things. What's the one? If there is one thing that you got out of the Galloup School, is there something that you use every day here, or and is it something that surprises you, or
just the reminder that you're terrible at this and everything you do is awful, and you need to strive to be better. No, and really what they teach you is just how to learn, and how to teach yourself, and like how to sort of never be satisfied with your skill level,
with the status quo.
Yeah,
and that's certainly something that we try to encourage here in the elderly shop. And one of the best things about this shop is the fact that we have this large group of guys, and you're never working alone. Whenever you hit a problem, there's always three people to bounce ideas off of. And many times as you're working, somebody else is looking at what you're doing and feeding your knowledge base as you do your work. How about you, Kyle?
A lot of what Mike said is true. They set the bar very high. They expect good work. I'm still getting a lot of setups under my belt here, but I feel like I was very well prepared. And one of the things I did there is focus on making nuts and saddles, and that comes into play a lot here. Not necessarily in setup, but it certainly helps.
Maybe not in
understanding all those
making
things.
of the pieces from scratch, but the final. The finer points of setup are involved with knowing how to size the saddle and cut the nut slots to efficiently, fast, without making any mistakes. Of course, one thing that I've always thought is that's the thing that makes a good repair person, is when you make mistakes, how do you get out of that? Can you end up where you want it to be even when you make a mistake? Those sometimes can be the best learning experiences.
Well, yeah, that part, not being satisfied and try to overlook every time that you do something and try to do it better every time, try to do it faster every time, trying to make it work better for you and try to find that spot that puts you in the next level. Also, I think that was the best thing that I learned over there.
Yeah. One of the things that I discovered when I started working here is I had gone to school and had been working in my own shop, doing repairs for various stores where I was living in Western Pennsylvania, and I thought I knew how to set up a guitar because I was getting paid to do so. But when I got here, I started the same way these guys have all started, which is pretty much the way things go here at Elderly. You start setting up new instruments, and there are just such a flow of new instruments to do. Like, I saw more instruments go across my bench in the first couple of months I was here than I had in my whole career previous. So I saw more instruments come across my bench in a couple of months than I had in a couple of years. And I quickly found out that what I knew about setup was not nearly as much as I thought, because of the opportunity to repeat that and to have that work graded day in and day out by a wide range of people, not only my supervisors, but the customers who you're dealing with, and how setup can be right for one guy, but you need a different interpretation of that for another guy. So one of the things you do at Galloup, well, you don't have to, but I'm pretty sure you guys all went through the program where you built guitars and worked on repairs. So these guys were kind enough to bring in a couple of guitars. This is Kyle's. So you're the newest guy, so this one is in the nicest shape still.
Yeah,
It's
that's
the
right.
newest guitar.
So
what-
far.
Yeah, just tell us about what it is. What is it?
This is a OM shape, finger style. It's their standard second term guitar build. Mahogany back and sides, double bound body. All the rosette and inlay work is taught and done by the student, obviously. The second term is taught by Sam Guidry, so after you brace the top on the guitar, it's voiced, and he shows you how to voice and properly tune the instrument. Maybe not, for better or worse as a student, but I thought it came out pretty well for one of my first guitars, and it sounds good.
Yeah, it's a great looking guitar for sure. So mahogany back and sides, and wood binding. Is that?
Yep, that's mahogany binding.
And you got interesting. Of course, there is no inlay on the fingerboard. It's got that plain look going on there, but there's a lot of wood inlay work going on both the headstock and the rosette there.
Yeah, in the second term, it's the first time that they kind of give you a little bit of creative leeway, creative freedom, and you can, within some parameters, design your own rosette as well as your own inlay on the headstock.
That's what I complained about when I was there. I was like, can we just design one thing ourselves? Like, can't we just do the peg head and can we just make them? No, everything had to be exactly the same. So
I did something.
they listened to me. I had a very good case for that.
I've seen a lot of these guitars, haven't had the opportunity to work with these three guys and interview and talk to a number of students over the years. So that's one of the things that they do. There is a certain level of student guitar that can be produced because it has, similar bridge design, small variations on the headstock shape, with the body and everything too. When you talk about tuning the guitar, we're not talking about tuning the strings up pitch. We're talking about working with the bracing, the size of the bracing, the thickness of the plates, and working those so they respond well, and you get a good sound.
Yeah.
So another variation that you can do is solid body guitar. This is Carlos's guitar. It's a little bit older, so it's seen a little bit more wear and tear.
Yep.
And I've already heard that you put a few variations in it, but just give us the highlights here.
Yeah, this was the studio Les Paul kind of guitar that we made in the first term, and in this one it was painted sunburst. That was the only time that we were allowed to. I don't know if you have the same kind of thing. But yeah, really basic guitar. This is the first introduction to what it is. Actually put a guitar together and paint it and all of that, and even working with the frets and making the nut. So it was really interesting because I had never before done that. I've been a guitar collector for a couple of years, but never had that experience prior going there. So I basically use this guitar really badly. So I make pickups and try it in here and this and that. So that's why it looks so bad, obviously. And all the checking happened when I moved to Michigan to start working in here. And I left the guitar outside in the car. It was like, I don't know, -10 or something.
That was when Carlos arrived for his interview. It was certainly the coldest day of that year, if not several surrounding. It wasn't the polar vortex of the most recent year, but it was pretty close. So that's what happens to a finish on a guitar when it gets put through some extreme cold, and then it can happen just from the extreme cold itself, but certainly when it goes from cold to warm, you get those finish checks, which a lot of people think looks cool, but maybe not on your the first guitar you built, your baby. So
Yeah, but it's still a fun guitar. Really, it was really nice go through that experience. And like I said before, I never in my life have done something like this. And like you said, like you don't know until you do it 1,000 times.
yeah. I'm referring, I forget what the gentleman's name is, but there's an author that talks about putting in 10,000 hours at your craft in a compressed period of time, and that's like a major part of many of the geniuses in any field. That so I always go to that little phrase. One of the things that I'd like to touch on is, so how do you get into, well, to come back around to the first question, how do you get into this field? Go to school. That's one answer there and that. But one of the things that I think of that I'm looking for in a good candidate for if I'm looking to hire somebody, so that I think that this is something that anybody's looking to get into the field could consider, is experience in a related field. And that related field could be anything. I usually think of things where you're actually fixing stuff, doing problem solving, and working with machinery as opposed to just woodworking, because of course the machinery is the tools that help you do the woodworking, and that's a major part of any repair shop or a building situation, where you've got to know enough about what to buy and what you need, how to maintain those things. And of course, when you go about buying your first tools, you're not able to go out and buy top of the line everything and outfit your shop. Most of the time you're working on a thin budget and buying used stuff and learning how to maintain it. So I've seen a lot of the really great repairmen in the field who had previous experience, car repair, machinist, things like that.
Detail-oriented things.
Detail-oriented things. We were talking about this earlier. Also, too, what about well, how does that help you? How does that fit?
I mean, it helps to have a, you can't just like guitars, that's not enough. You have to like the process of working on it and working on things. If you're the kind of person who enjoys the act of the work itself, then you're going to be apt to do this sort of work. But if you just like guitars, it's not,
Most repair guys are guitar players who realize that their dream of being a rock star ain't going to happen, and you want to stay involved in the business somehow. And if you have worked with your hands in some other way, like say a related field like I was talking about, or art in some way, that's what happened to me. I like to do a lot of art stuff. I was used to working with my hands. My father had a woodworking shop right there in his garage and basement, and I had access to a bunch of tools, so I thought about that idea. But
I know some really, really good repair people who came from that. They were artists, and so they were, again, really detail-oriented, really good fine motor skills and stuff like that, and then they were also musicians, and I think that's a good natural.
Even though I was speaking in a somewhat negative way about the failed musician thing, we talked about that earlier. You've got to know how to play to do repair to a certain level, because why?
Well, to know how something should feel, to know how something should play or sound, it would be really difficult to do what we do without knowing how to play the instrument, at least to some degree.
I think another key part of that is you've got to be able to relate to your customers, what they're going through as a musician, and they have to have some confidence in you, so that you can show them that you know what you're talking about, because you can play to a certain level. I do know a few folks, not repair people, but builders, who could build a beautiful looking instrument, but there was, there might be something missing, because somebody who could build but wasn't a player. And I think there's a key link there that's missing in that. situation.
Everyone always assumes that if you repair guitars professionally, you must be like some sort of virtuoso on the guitar. You know, I repaired a guy's guitar, and he was like, he was a really good guitar player, you know, and he was like, oh, here, you play it. I want to hear someone really, really good play this. I was like, you got to practice to be really good. I'm too busy repairing guitars to ever have time to practice. You don't want to, like, you're a better guitar player than I am, man. Just play it. Love it.
Yeah, for sure. And that brings up an idea that I was talking about with several people here. All the different aspects of what being a guitar repair person takes. And working with your hands and having the skills to do the work is really just a subsection of what you got to do. We talked about experience with machines and repair of those machines and just knowing what to buy and maintain them. We got into the next thing, which is customer service. You have to be able to do what we're doing here. Talk about the guitars and talk to the people and be able to communicate with them about what you're doing. And how do you organize all that? With a computer. We see that every day here in this whole business, where you gotta know how to work with computers, because it's the only way to organize a business and have everything that you need to work efficiently to serve customers. You got to be able to keep track of things and keep organized. So you got a people person, customer service, know how to maintain and organize the shop, the guitar skills, and another one that I've talked about with my son, who happens to be a car guy rather than a guitar guy, are his early process through his car career parallels a lot of things that I've seen in my guitar career, which is, and one of those things, when you get good at all those other things, you got to know how to manage people, which is one of my biggest challenges in main jobs right now, because if you get good at all that other stuff, what happens? You end up getting promoted.
They put you in charge.
They put you in charge. They put you in charge for too long, and you don't have any. It's challenging to get enough time at the bench actually doing the repairs. But, and in the same way that, so when you are a supervisor, you have to learn how to manage. When you're working with a supervisor, you have to understand people management stuff, so you can work with them and work with them and make that whole thing. So there are a number of areas that are super important for being learning about to become a good guitar repair person. And fixing guitars is actually only one of those facets. And when you fix guitars, you have to know a number of things. Like what are the skills? We talked right here about acoustic guitar work, building this box, electric guitar. Of course, the wiring comes into mind. The finish on both. So you have to have woodworking skills, wiring skills, finishing skills. Those are a number of things that go into just the guitar repair part.
The good news is once you do that, you feel like super confident about fixing almost anything in your life. You know, it's like the dishwasher's broke. Just get in there and just see what's going on.
Yeah, that is one of the
Super glue.
A little ebony dust in here and some super glue. I think we got this. Yeah.
Super glue is definitely one of our main tools. All right, what time we got here? Oh, we still got time. All right, so does that answer the question, folks, out there in Facebook land? You know how we all got into the business? I think it does. If anybody has any questions, please throw them at us and we will answer them over the next week here. In the next 2 weeks, till we come back to you again in a couple of weeks. And appreciate any feedback you have for us. Like us on Facebook, share it. Thanks to Mike and Kyle and Carlos for participating today, and we'll see you in a few weeks.